Errol is a professional certified leadership coach and an enhanced conversational intelligence coach. He now serves as operations manager and focuses on leadership development at Nazarene Theological in Johannesburg, South Africa, where his wife, Rhonda Carrim, serves as the principal. They are there, of course, serving there with their daughter, Kimberly, who is also there with them. Errol is a friend and a brother. I've known Errol for, well, he kind of let the cat out of the bag for so long. Over 40 years now, we have literally known each other. I really enjoy listening to him share. And I've listened to him several times on this platform. And so I look forward this morning to how the Lord will use Errol today. And God bless you, my brother, as we share. And men, as we keep encouraging you, this is the place to talk. It's we who are here today. We are here today to talk, to listen, and to share in whatever way we can help you. God bless you, Errol, as you share with us this morning.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Lawrence. And yes, gentlemen, turn on your cameras where you can, please. We appreciate that very much. And also, we hope to get you, engaged in a conversation to talk about just where you are and where the challenges are for you. As we get started today, I just want to just remind you, you listened to my conversation today. Reverend Lawrence last week focused you so well on the spiritual foundation. You listened to my conversation today, and I wouldn't be saying much things spiritual, and because that is designed that way. I think in the church we have spiritualized so many things that we don't pay attention to the things that are non-spiritual, that are as important as our spiritual well-being. And so you got the foundation. Now what I want to talk to you about today will be more about your psychological and emotional well-being as men. And I know you hear emotions and men, and suddenly you're thinking, did you get on the right platform? Well, you are on the right platform, because that is our objective here, to help you. This platform focuses on three areas of our lives. Whenever you listen to us, either we focus on your spiritual, emotional, or physical. And if you think of your life, that's it. And all of those need to be working in a healthy way, in balance, in order for us to be effective men of God. So I want to help us today to guide you through a conversation, and ask you to join in the conversation as well, to talk about your psychological well-being, just kind of where you find yourself, and what comes up for you, and you are free to agree, disagree. The goal here is to cause you to think differently about how you think about yourself. Okay, so as we get started today, I just ask a question. When you sit and think about who you are as a man of God, as a human being, as a husband, as a father, what are the things come to mind about yourself when you just think about you? Okay, so I know for a lot of you, you have thoughts about yourself in terms of how you perceive yourself. You're comfortable with who you are. You're not comfortable with who you are. You like yourself. You don't like yourself. These are all thoughts that we entertain as men, as we try to figure out our place and how do we show up. And we look at some men look as though they're successful and they're thriving and life's great, and you're wondering, I'm still struggling here. So what is all of this about? And for us to understand that how I show up, how I understand, and how I engage is most important. I want to focus our conversation today on our psychological well-being. So let me just share my screen here with you. Okay, we got that on there. Can you see that? Everybody see my screen okay? So I want to focus our conversation around the 6 domains of psychological well-being. And, I figured going and looking at all of the research and all and trying to put this together. And then, Greg Henrique and Carol Riff worked on this and put it together in such a way that I thought, let me just walk us through this. And I wanted to see where you see yourself. We always tend to focus on what's wrong, okay? What does sick look like? What does healthy look like? What does it mean when I'm in a good place? How can I tell if I'm in a good place, emotionally, psychologically? And can I know I don't need to pay attention to that and how that shows up. And that is very, very important. That is fundamentally important to how we show up as individuals, at church, at work, as family, as fathers, as husbands, however we show up. Being aware of who we are psychologically and emotionally is very, very important. A lot of us live in such a way that we don't pay attention to those things, and it just wreaks havoc in our lives, and we don't realize what's really happening or what's really going on in our journey. And the importance of knowing that and understanding how that works is what I want us to focus on today. So let's talk about the 6 areas in which you need to focus on being psychologically well and emotionally well. The first area is that area of your level of self-acceptance. And this is a place a lot of men struggle. Self-acceptance, okay, refers to the degree of positive attitude you have about yourself, your past behaviors, and the choices that you have made. Let me just say a little more here. This is not about being all about you, and it's that the world revolves around you. If you stop breathing, everybody else will suffocate. There's going to be no oxygen left because it's all because of you. That's not what we're talking about here. Okay, what we're talking about here is really the acceptance of yourself, of who you are, and knowing individuals. Let me just back this one up here first. Having a degree of positive attitudes about yourself, your past behavior, and the choices you have made. So just pause here for a second. Let me ask you a question. Think about your life. Think about even some of the mistakes you have made, some of the wrong turns you have taken, some of the things that have happened. As you sit here today, are you comfortable? Have you accepted who you are? Or are you still struggling with some of the things that have happened and the choices you have made, and the career didn't turn out, or how the marriage is at, or how the children were raised, or do you have a positive attitude about yourself, your past behavior and the choices you have made as a person? How do you feel about you?
Errol, if I could jump in here in terms of my own personally, I have a lot, I think, to be thankful for my own parents,
right?
Because they really helped me as an individual, to have a kind of confidence about who I am in terms of, what is happening in our world.
Right.
But you look back there through life now, there are some things that you really wish you could have done better.
Okay. Yes.
And when you look back, but I try not to beat myself with that, because I know God has dealt with that, and that is my way of dealing with it, I guess. Okay. And I just try to move forward. But those things do come back from time to time, and I have to push past it, because I know who I am, and I know I've got to keep going and going forward confidently, as confident as I can, and so that is how I have to deal with it as an individual. I really don't allow myself to get so knocked down by my past. That has been dealt with. God has dealt with that, so move on. Even though I remember it from time to time, move on. That's how I have to deal with it.
Okay, good. Thanks, Rev. That's good. It's good. And I often say in my own journey, you have to get to the place in your life where, for you to shift from the negative to the positive, you have to get to the place in your life where your past is no longer a stumbling block, but it becomes a stepping stone. You know, I sit here as, you know, as if I was still defining myself by my past, I could not engage and talk to you gentlemen the way I am able to talk, because God has helped me, and with the help of a lot of people around me, to transcend from the mistakes I've made, you know, the wrong turns I've taken, and be able now to look back at those things and use those experiences as stepping stone in order to be more effective as in the present as a person, but also to help others. So a sign of knowing that you're comfortable with who you are, and you're not wishing you were somebody else, and you're not self-critical, is, can I look at my past and see it as something that I've learned from and could pass on to others, or am I still beating myself up about some of the mistakes that I've made? We have to become compassionate to ourselves. You know, God is compassionate to us. We don't know how to be compassionate to ourselves. We don't know how to be kind to ourselves. We are very critical, especially as men, because there's some unseen standard we're not meeting, and we get hard on ourselves, and we compare ourselves with others. But your level of self-acceptance is crucial, because if you don't come to terms with accepting you fully for who you are, you'll always be searching for something you can't find. You'll always be looking for the person that you can't become. You'll always be out there, always wishing and always hoping. You'll be the person that you have this conversation with, and always telling about his big dreams, and this will happen someday, and I'm working on this, and you know, this is coming soon, and I'm working on this big project, and I'm working on this. Every time you see them, they're working on something, but nothing is happening, because they haven't first accepted themselves for who they are, and what the gifts that they have, and taking in their mistakes. You can't undo the past. It's done. So if God has removed our, you know, as far as the east is from the west, God has removed our transgression, why are we still measuring ourselves by those transgressions? Why are we still defining ourselves by those things? Here's what I say. I made some poor choices, but by the grace of God, God has redeemed my life. He has taken the mess I have made. He has cleaned it up, and he's given it back to me. He said, I want you to take that and go and make a difference for my kingdom. So I used to live at that old address, how I used to, but now I've moved, I've changed address. But there are still people who are going to visit me where I used to live. But I can't go back there and say, this is where I live. I have to say, if you want to see me for who I am today, come see me at my new address. Because God has moved me from here to a new place to live. Gentlemen, we can't keep defining ourselves by the old ways and the old mistakes we have made. We have to come to terms to accept ourselves and embrace who we are and say, I have changed address. I'm not wishing I'm different. I'm not wishing to be somebody else. I am very happy with me. I am very at peace with me, and I'm very open for God to do whatever he wants through me, not hoping to be anything else or anybody else. But you have to come to terms with who you are in terms of your level of self-acceptance. Okay, acceptance, pleased with who you are, accepting your aspects of yourselves, both good and bad. God is good. You need to start accepting who you are. Okay, moving along, second one, your overall quality of your relationship with others. Individuals with poor relationships often feel unappreciated, disrespected, unloved, disconnected, hostile, rejected, or misunderstood. They tend to feel insecure and sometimes alone and distant. Gentlemen, I want you to look at those words on that slide there and see which of those words that you feel that's part of your experience right now. Unappreciated, disrespected, unloved, disconnected, hostile, rejected, or misunderstood, or feel insecure and sometimes alone or distant from others. Yeah. And sometimes, you know, to feel insecure. When I think of insecure, I think about, and I'll put this out there just for your conversation and hear what you, you know, what you all are thinking. But when I think about insecure, I work with, you know, couples a lot, and when I hear some of the argument in the conversation is about having access to your devices. I don't know your password. You give me your password. I don't know. That kind of conversation. To me, begins to talk about some insecurity in the relationship when we have to have this conversation about who have access to whose devices, and and you change the password and you didn't tell me, and as though there is something there about what's happening that or if you see your wife talking to someone, or or they getting another message from them, you want to know why, and a whole lot of insecurity. But that is just symptomatic. When you start to fight about the devices and the texts and the WhatsApp messages, that's symptomatic. That's not the problem. That's merely symptomatic of a greater insecurity that exists in the relationship. Okay. So when in terms of the overall relationship, then what we're talking about is the quality of your relationship matters. Okay. And you've heard me say on this platform, for those of you who have been on here before, that once you get married, Genesis tells us you will leave your father and mother and cleave to your wife, and the two shall become one. In that context, the father and mother relationship for the child was the most important human relationship. Okay? When you leave that, it says you're leaving that most important relationship now to have the most important relationship with your wife. So what I'm saying is the relationship you have with your wife now becomes the most important human relationship on earth. Nobody comes before that relationship. No friend, and I talk to couples, and I'll hear about a friend that and they talk to them better, and in this context where I live here, it's more about the in-laws. The son goes back home to see mom and dad before he gets home from work. Something happens, he tells them first, but this relationship, the quality of your relationship with your spouse, this most important human relationship, will make an impact on how you enjoy your life, where you could have that freedom. So when you're in a healthy space, when you have healthy relationships, this is what it looks like, okay? Because when you have healthy relationships, you feel connected, you feel respected, you feel well loved. You can share yourself and experience intimacy. You usually feel secure in the relationship. Okay? So talk a little, is this how you feel? Do you have relationships that makes you feel like this? Okay, and if you say no, it doesn't mean you're saying things wrong with your wife, okay? But I want you to get honest. Is that place where you feel this kind of positive connection, respect, and well loved, and you can say, I am scared right now, or I don't know what to do, or you can actually cry, right, guys? And that is not weakness, but to be that vulnerable. Do you have that kind of quality of relationship where you can authentically be you? To be healthy, man, if we are going to engage with our relationships in a healthy way, this is where we need to be. Okay, and you saw me talk about, I did a presentation earlier in the platform about intimacy. There are different types of intimacy. There are different levels of intimacy. There are recreational intimacy, there are intellectual intimacy, there are, the ultimate intimacy, the sexual intimacy that's reserved for the man and the wife. But we become intimate with people that we're not married to, but because of how we connect. But that requires some emotional vulnerability. And for us men, a lot of us don't even know how to be emotionally vulnerable. We don't know how to make ourselves that vulnerable to others. So to you, I'm asking, do you feel that safe? Do you feel that vulnerable in a relationship? And I was sharing with someone recently that that I have an app on my phone, and so does my wife. And I know where my wife is. I know when she leaves. It tells me, Rhonda has just left whatever address, and the person goes, "Oh, you follow your wife?" And I said, "Yes, I do. I do, not because I don't trust my wife, for my wife's safety. I need to know if she tells me she left. If the thing said the app says she left the grocery store, and it's supposed to take her 10 minutes to get here, and it's an hour when she's not home. This is a concern. See, so the insecurity I'm talking about here is in a relationship is when you feel you can't trust you have to know everything, but the quality of a relationship with your spouse is vital, to have that kind of openness and that kind of intimacy, that kind of trust. And then the people around you, as the brother was saying earlier, having other people in your life where you can be that intimate and you can trust, you can say, right now, this is my struggle. Right now, this is my challenge. Can you help me? Can you talk to me? Can you pray for me? This is all significantly important, because if we don't do this, then we end up with this. We see them, our wife talking to someone, and we all of a sudden we want to know, what's going on and who they're talking to, and we questions and create more conflict. And now your wife is now don't like talking to anybody because they have to answer to you, and so their life is now not happy, and you think you're happy because you're controlling everything, but you're not happy, and neither is she. So feeling of security, trust, and intimacy in the marriage, in the relationship, is absolutely vital. That's why I'm focusing on the psychological well-being, because we keep all this inside of us and we want to appear that we're strong. Then when we're alone, we break down. That's why we end up making poor choices, because we are trying to manage this on our own. The need for us to know that we can, here's what I say now. I am so accepting of myself. I don't think there's something about me that someone could say publicly that will destroy me, because I own it. See, I've accepted it. And so if you say to me, I committed adultery and I caused this to happen, I did. I'm not proud of it, but by the grace of God, He has made me who I am. Because if I have to be living in the fear of my past, I could never be fully in God's hand in the present. I have to find the freedom, and that comes with being able to find the people to trust and to be honest with, and to see yourself and then embrace yourself. I'll tell you, for me, since 2010, there are 3 guys. There used to be 4. One of them died in 2013. There are 3 guys that I meet with every week. I get on Zoom. We used to meet physically when we first started because we were all in the same place. But every Thursday, I get on Zoom. They're back in the States. I'm in South Africa. And these men, I have to account to them. How am I doing mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and with my spouse? Okay, question like, have you done anything that you're embarrassed of or you're ashamed of? John Wesley would say in the group, have you sinned in the past week? Okay, very straightforward question. And I meet with these guys, and then I have another guy I meet with every 2 weeks. He's in the States, I'm over here. And I put myself out there to be held accountable for who I am, because in myself, I can't manage that. And if I'm going to be open and vulnerable and go into places I go and deal with the people I deal. If I'm working with a client, I'm working with a woman, and I'm feeling uncomfortable or sexual attraction. I have these guys. I say, listen, I don't give names. I said, right now, I need some prayer here because this is not feeling good. I may have to just tell this person I can't work with them. Okay, but I put it out there. It's not hidden, so it's not hidden. They know where I'm at, and I can host. They'll come back and say, okay, Errol, so tell us about this woman you've been working with. You say you're feeling a bit uncomfortable with. How is that going? It's out there. So all I'm saying to you is, gentlemen, we got to be open and let people into our lives and have security. And if we're secure in who we are, we don't have to worry about who sends the WhatsApp message to wives. We'll be okay with that. It's our own insecurity that makes us want to question our wives getting a WhatsApp message or see her talking to someone or wanting to see one password to the phone so we can know what she's getting. Work on your own healthy relationships, and that is what's going to make a difference for you. Okay. All right. Moving on.
Before we move on, there's a comment. I have felt all these emotions because I'm being judged by my past and unforgiven.
Yes. Minister Malin, I feel the pain in that statement you just read there. The pain in that statement. It's like a burden. You're walking with this, like, you can't, it's like a big rock. You just can't get free. And that's where I say we need to reach out and get some help, with Minister Malin or myself or, Reverend Lawrence, but you need some help to get unburdened from that from that burden you just described there. Yeah, I feel just the pain of that statement. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So the third step, the third area is in the your just talking about your sense of autonomy. Individuals with low in autonomy feels dependent on others. They're constantly worried about the opinions of others and always looking to others for guidance and feel strong pressure to conform to others. They're indecisive. They can't feel they could do anything. Someone tells them this and that's what they want to do. Someone tells them this, that's what they want to do. So they don't have a personal sense of feeling, this is who I am and this is what I'm about and this is where my life is going, and this is, they're like the waves. They're just moving to and fro because of the wind blowing, as James says. But look at that statement there. Do you feel some of that struggle in your own life? You're always looking for somebody to tell you what to do. And at the same time, you have a strong pressure to conform to what others desire of you. So you're struggling for your own sense of self. Okay, that is for a lot of men an area that they struggle. Okay, they're constantly and here it is. You're young, you're married, and you're dealing with the what your father is telling you this, and your wife wants this, and your friends telling you that, and you have all this pressure going on. Okay, where is your sense of autonomy? Where is the man that's supposed to show up here, who is supposed to leave and cleave and build his home? Well, because he doesn't have a sense of autonomy. He doesn't have a sense of I have a idea of who I am and what I want for my life and how God wants me to live. Then you're always to the opinions of others. You hear a sermon today and that's what you want. Then you listen to a sermon driving to work tomorrow. That's what you want, and everything sounds good, but you're not doing anything, and you want someone to tell you what to do. Okay, that's a struggle for a lot of us men. But when you're psychologically in a healthy space, for your psychological well-being, this is how you show up. Okay, you are independent. And when I say and this is independent in terms of you could make choices, but you're also interdependent. You need other people, right? If I'm going to say, no man is an island. So you're interdependent. You need other people as well. But you're independent. You can make decisions. You're self-reliant. You can depend on yourself. You can trust yourself to make decisions. You can think. Okay. You can think for yourself. You don't have to have a strong need to conform, and you don't worry too much about what others think about you. Yes. And you open up. You have to find the men who themselves have first walk and own their own brokenness. It is men who have not yet owned their brokenness that sits in judgment. When we own our brokenness, we only know grace. We only know grace. And so you just hang around men. Listen to men talking. You can tell when you hear men stand around there and he's talking and he's hard on other people, and he's setting all his high standard, and he's just talking as though he's got his life together. He hasn't yet embraced his real pain and his failures and his struggles. He still see himself about that. That's not the kind of man you want to be talking to. The men that you want to talk to are the men who you hear talking with a sense of passion and in their lives, but instead of compassion, they're not just passing judgment on other people. When you're saying, how could he, how could this guy, do this? And he says, I wonder what makes a person do something like that. You hear the difference. The judge says, how could you do that? But grace says, I wonder what makes a person do something like that. And so those are the kind of men you have to listen for, where you can trust, where you wouldn't be judged. But you're around the guys and you hear them just hard on everything and putting everybody down and making themselves look good. Yeah, you're going to be judged. So I say, listen for men who speak with compassion for themselves and for others, And these are the men that you can speak to who wouldn't judge you.
Errol, based on, I can tell you my own experience in that when I went through a divorce, it took me a year I took a year basically to get to know who I am, just to get an appreciation for who I am. Then the term would have been fall in love with me again.
Right.
Because there was just such devastation. In fact, in my case, I nearly died in my own marriage. And that's not an emotional, that's physical. I had 90 minutes to live. So I had to go through a place of getting to know who I am. What am I here for? What am I going to be accomplishing for the next couple of years of my life? Things like those. And as a result of it, being a minister and all the other things that went along with what I was doing, you lost a lot of people along the way who had different judgment calls on you. And during that process, I remember the Lord reminded me one thing. He said, I want you to be happy while people are talking. So I spent the next couple of years just doing the things that I felt he said I was called to do. And by doing that focused type of living, it meant that it also put categories of where people fit. So if somebody comes talking, somebody means that, okay, talk to the hand, whatever term you want to use, but it meant that I put them in the categories of my life where they belong. And most times when I met someone who, there's a term I've come to, a wounded healer, someone who has actually gone through something, I could speak from experience, I could tell you, and they become the non-judgmental kind of affiliations that you're looking for, who could really understand what you've been through and sit as a place of being a confidant or someone that you could be accountable to. Because generally in the church arena, I mean, I've been in all my life. I consult churches as a job. So I meet pastors every day, basically. And not many pastors are very mature. Let's be frank. Where life is concerned, I mean, they're very biblical. But when coming to talking about the real issues of life, not many have actually gone through things. When you talk about divorce, some pastors put up a little thing, as though something wrong, but it happens. When it comes to infidelity, they act really crazy. And when it comes to things like oral sex and all the other things that we talk about, they act as though this like, this never happens, but it's a real part of life. And so it's difficult to actually sit and talk to someone whose head is just stuck in some pages and have never really moved it to see exactly that life goes on outside of these things. So if you're looking for someone, you need someone who has actually been through, as I said, a wounded healer, someone who have gone through something to say, listen, I understand what you're saying, but here, do this, do that.
Yes.
So I took that period of time, that year, to fall in love with me, decide exactly what am I going to accomplish in the next couple of years of my life. And as a result, it then put a determination and a direction as to who am I going to be talking to, what kind of conversations, where do I put my value time to, who gets my ears, who doesn't get my ears. It put real, so that time spent knowing who you are. I mean, if you understand that part, it could really help us from being hurt in the way that we find ourselves being hurt so often. So that was my story, but at least it has helped me a lot in where I'm at right now in my life.
Right. And Rev, thank you for saying that, Minister Mallon, because I think that is so crucial. And the phrase that you brought up, the wounded healer, without fail, this is not exaggeration, without fail, I would sit with somebody I don't know. And within 10 minutes of the conversation, they will start talking to me about their pain. And usually, talking to someone, and they will say to me, they'll tell me the most horrific thing they would have done. And then later they'll say, you weren't judging me. Well, no, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to offer you grace, man. I'm not here to tell you what you've done. You know what you have done. You're talking to someone because you're looking for grace. You're looking for someone who would offer you some hope that this could change. This could get better. But wounded healers, and what we need is a cadre of wounded healers in our churches where men could pick up their phone, or men could say, I need to talk, or men could say, this just happened, or I'm struggling with this, or and we don't start by saying, well, the Bible said you're supposed to, and the Bible said you're supposed to. The thing I'm on right now is, Minister Marlon, we have a Christianity that we live in our heads. I heard a statement recently. Someone says Christianity of the West is doctrinal statements rolling around in our heads. Okay. The Christianity of the Bible is a transformational Christianity, as Reverend Lawrence was telling us last week. It doesn't just give me knowledge, it changes who I am as a person. And the more I encounter this transformation, is the more grace I have to offer the brokenness, because I accept my brokenness. And that's what we need to be, man. And that's why we need to step up, man. And we need to say, this is where I'm at. This is what's going on. How do I, and men need help, but they don't know how to ask for help because they are made to feel that they're weak or they're useless or they're broken. And rather than saying, okay, this has happened. Now, how can we help you? And we need more wounded healers to step up. And pastors, a lot of pastors, they have to appear to be so good and so perfect and so right. They don't know how to be human. And so humans can't relate to them because they themselves can't be human. Okay, no, yeah, that makes complete sense. And that's what we're trying to get at here, is because society try to define to us how we should be. And what I am challenging us to do is we ought to be how God designs us to be. Because society wants us to appear to be always in control and always strong. And then it says, okay, express it. And when you express how you're really feeling, they said, something's wrong with you. And earlier, what we need to keep in mind is we need to recognize that if we don't find ways to express how we feel and to live in the reality of what we're feeling, we'll always self-sabotage. And more importantly, we need to become the kind of men we're looking for. Okay, we need to start to create the environment where people can trust us, so that they can develop to be people to be trust as well. So we could say we can't find people. I completely get that, but I realized when I started, to look for men that I could trust, I decided I'd be a man that can be trusted, and like attracts like. And I found a lot of men out there who you can be open with, but I can't stand aside and say I can't find anybody I can trust while I'm myself not becoming gracious and trustworthy. So we must become what we are looking for as well.
I think because of what I do, for instance, I go along with, for instance, I spent about 10 years with Dr. Miles Monroe as a director of marketing, advertising, and graphics. So as an image consultant, I do pastors, politicians, business people, and a lot of these people are obviously much more successful than I am. I would not put myself in a place to even want to be in their shoes sometimes, but I'm very confident as to who I am. Why am I here? What am I here to accomplish? So instead of me trying to become like someone, I'm the best me as possible. And so as a result of it, I'm very comfortable with who I am. I think sometimes I share with once with, I think it might have been this group, I sat down in the presence of a prime minister, and he walked in and he let go on the nastiest cuss I ever heard in my life. And while I'm sitting right there, he then looks at me and he apologizes. He said, "I'm sorry I did that in your presence." See, I'm confident as to who I represent. So I'm not trying to become anyone else. So as much as possible, Valid, I think there has to be a place where why am I here? What am I here to accomplish? What am I going to be doing? What's happening in the next couple of years? These guys have done some things, they might have made some marks, but it's time for you to make your own mark. And I think it's time, that's where I think we all need to be as men. We don't have to be intimidated by somebody else's impression. We create our own. I hope that helps.
Right.
Because that's actually that's helping me in my journey, especially walking along with successful people. That, you know what, I love your success. In fact, that means that I don't become jealous of their success. It means that I have my own road ahead of me, and I see where I'm supposed to be going, and we can now shoulder to shoulder walk, and I'm not intimidated by you whatsoever. So that, I think that's where we need to be, but from a Caribbean perspective, and from sometimes from where we are given these kind of narratives that kind of damage our emotions and how we look at ourselves. And I think it's time we shake those things off. That's why these platforms are so great for us, because you were born for a reason. There's something you came here to accomplish. Find that and be strong in that place, not necessarily trying to become a mirror image of somebody else. That's not what God had planned for you.
That's Minister Allen, that's it. And I could see something coming on this platform, becoming the best version of yourself.
All right.
Where we could spend some time with you, because I that's what we say on here. It's not who you become to look like someone else. It's who you become as the best person that God created you to become.
Yeah.
And the more we are able to get a hold of that concept, I think it's the freer we become to become creative and to be, fully what God calls us to be, because it's not being measured against somebody else. Because I want to say this to you, at the end of the day, when you stand before God on that judgment day, He's not going to ask Minister Marlon, how were you like Dr. Miles Monroe? That's not what He's going to ask him. He's going to say, how were you fully what I created you to be? Did you live that out? And that's what we are aspiring here to help the men and the women that come on this platform. Firstly, your first responsibility is to become the best version of you. Because if you can't do that, you can't have the best marriage, you can't be the best dad, you can't be the best employee, you can't be the best Christian, because you're still measuring who you are up against someone else. Okay, so moving on, since the time is moving on, we better move on. The fourth thing I want to talk to you about is the sense of mastery over your environment. Now, what this means is that the degree to which you feel competent to meet the demands of your situation. Again, let's come back to what Minister Marlon was saying earlier. Not compared to anybody else. Compared to you and where you're at, do you feel competent to meet the demands of your environment? So what it is saying is, when you have that sense of low environmental mastery, you might feel powerless to change aspect of your environment. Unsatisfied, you lack resources to cope. So what you end up doing? You end up having a victim mentality. You end up saying, I can't do this because of this, I can't do that because of that. And you just, your life is not moving forward, and you're sitting around just blaming if I had a better job, if this didn't happen, if the car didn't break down, if I didn't lose the key, if my wife was more this, if my wife was more that, if my children was this. So you appear to have no control of the no mastery of the environment you exist. Everything just happening to you. Okay? And what we're talking about in terms of your psychological well-being, what we're talking about actually is when you are at the place where you have a high environmental mastery, you feel that you have the resources and the capacity to cope, to adjust, to adapt to problems, and not to be overwhelmed by stress. When your wife needs you to step up and take care of things, you just overwhelmed, you can't do it. Or there are always excuses, well, if I had this, we don't have that, and always floundering around with the inability to bring your best self to the game, because you can't do anything. You always have an excuse. You always starting with why you can't. Okay. In terms of your psychological well-being, it's not about how much you have or if you're in a different place. It's about, men, can we step up into, this is where I'm at. This is my job. This is my home. This is my wife. These are my kids. This is my family. Or this is, am I in control here, or am I being controlled by it? So you get fired. You can say, okay, so I lose my job. I don't have any control over being fired. But does that mean I sit home and say I'm unemployed? Or do I start figuring out, what can I do differently? What can I make happen? So this is what I live by. I was saying this to someone just yesterday in the office. This is how I live. I don't give energy to the things I can't control. I don't give energy to it. All I give my energy to is the things I have control over, because I can make a difference. Complaining that Complain that it's very cold in South Africa right now. It's not going to make it any warmer. But what can I do to make myself warmer rather than complain about how cold it is? Okay. That is mastering your environment. So just thinking about that and think about where you find yourself in your journey as a man and where, where your job is at, or where things are at. What do you have control over that you can make a difference with? I say that to people all the time. I talk to couples, and I would say to the husband, or I say to the wife, you can't change your husband. You can't change your wife. You only have control over one person, that's yourself. And so telling your husband you want him to do this, but telling your wife you want him to do this because they will change to become what you want is really a losing battle. And I have seen in many relationships, and Minister Malin probably could tell you this, I have just worked with one spouse and the other one start changing. Why? Because they show up differently. They begin to control the environment that they have control over, and they stop giving energy to the spouse that they can't change, and let me show up the best version of me. And before you know it, my wife is being different, my husband is being different, and they says, I didn't even tell them I'm working with you. And I said, you don't have to tell them anything. They're just seeing who's showing up. And so in the past, when they yell at you and they got you upset, now when they yell at you, you don't get upset. They had to come differently now because they're realizing that's not working. And so your change begin to elicit the change you're looking for. Mastering your environment. You being able to take control of what you have control over and stop giving energy and worry about the thing you have no control over. That's what I mean by having a sense of mastery of the environment. Don't become overwhelmed. Just focus on what you can control. So your personal growth. This is a big one. This is a big one, man. Let's talk about this. Individual with low personal growth feels of no sense of change or development. They're low, often feel bored, uninterested in life, and they lack a sense of improvement over time. They're just boring. They go to work, they come home, that's it. They sit down, they do nothing. They put on the TV and they watch TV because they're tired. They eat and they put the plate right there. They expect the wife or the children to pick it up. And they wake up tomorrow, they go to work, and they're home on the weekend, and they're boring, and they're heavy. They're heavy to be around. That's people with low personal growth. Okay, they're like a lag, And your wife said, "Honey, let's go out," and it's like, oh, that it's just she stopped asking you to go out. You know why? Because it is just such a pain to get you to go out. And when you go out, you're not engaging, you're complaining, your head buried in your phone, you just want to go home. And I hope you guys don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying what some men do, okay? Right? But that kind of thing, and that kind of living, that lack of personal growth, no sense of self-improvement. You're not trying to better yourself. You're not trying to be the best version of you. I tell people, we went into this COVID thing last year. It started here in March last year. Everything shut down. I couldn't go to the college. I couldn't teach. I was home. You know what I did? I went online. I found free courses online. And I started studying trauma. Okay? And now I sit with people. I have bought books. I'm dyslexic, so I don't read well on page, but I buy audiobooks. And I started reading. I started becoming knowledgeable. And so I developed a whole new way of dealing with people when COVID came. I didn't sit and say, oh, COVID, I can't go nowhere. This happening. Government shut us down. We can't do this. I could have done that. But I look for what can I do with what I have control over. And my personal growth in every way, is vitally important to me, because I want to be the best version of me, so I can be the best husband to my wife, the best father to my daughter, the best administrator to the college, the best counselor to these people I sit and work with. I want to be the best representation to my father, so that he is proud of me with every opportunity he gives me to represent him. But that means I have to take charge for doing this. Okay, what it is saying is, when it comes to my growth, then I have a sense of changing, changing in positive direction, moving towards potential, becoming more mature, increase the self-knowledge and my new skills. Can I ask you, we're in July, from January to now, how have you changed? Has anything improved about you in a positive way in the last 6.5 months? That's what you need to look at. What is happening in your personal growth? How are you becoming a better person each day? The Bible tells us that we each day are becoming more like Christ. We are being transformed. And if you are still having the same anger problem that you've been having for the last 5 years, and that's what they know you as, people are afraid to talk to you because you will lose it, I will say you need some transformational work. You need to deal with that. You need to look at yourself and say, what about me that needs improving, that makes me attractive, that people want to be in my presence, people want to hear from me, does your wife want to be around you, or is she just glad to be away from you? And same with your kids, and same with the people you're around, and seeing what it is. Say things like, I remember asking my daughter, asking my wife, how do you experience me? What about me that you experience that doesn't feel good? How do I, and I get feedback from them, so I could say, I want to self-improve so I could be better for my family. I said that to my employees, people that work for me at the college. I said, I sit in a meeting and I say, okay, so I need to know, how do you experience me as your boss? How do I talk to you? Do I make you feel valued? Do I put you down? And it get to the place now they could come into the office and say, Rev, I didn't appreciate Rev. And I don't take it personal and say, oh, over here, being the boss is a big thing. You don't talk, the way they talk to me as a boss over here is different because they couldn't do it with a regular South African boss. But I have created a culture of I want to grow and develop. And I can't be the best me full of myself. I could only be the best me as I'm open for people to speak into my life and to grow and develop. So how have you changed? How is your life developing? How have you improved? How are you a better person today than you were January? That's what I'm talking about here. A desire to touch your potential, to gain your self-knowledge, you're becoming more mature. Are you maturing? Are your family feeling that you're growing, and they could trust you and they feel safe around you, and or your wife had to be careful what she tells you because you don't get so upset that they could ruin the day, so I have to find the right time. She has to walk around on eggshell because she knows that if she says it, what's gonna happen, and that kind of expression. Man, I hope that your family and your wife and your kids don't have to feel it around you. And if they do, you need to say, what about me makes me that way, that I need to fix that so I could be better as I show up as a husband, as a father, as a person, as a Christian, as a believer, as an employee. All right. Number 6, your sense of purpose. Let's talk a little about that. Individuals low in this quality often question if there's a larger purpose. They do feel their life make sense and attribute no higher meaning or value to life other than the fulfillment of a series of tasks. Just as I was describing earlier, you come home, that's it, the same career, nothing. What's your purpose? What's your purpose? And let me say this to you, whatever your purpose is, your purpose must be bigger than you and must outlive you. Okay? It must be bigger than you and it must outlive you. And just by saying those two things, it automatically says my purpose will be defined by God, because he'll outlive you and he's bigger than you. And so showing up for your purpose. What is my purpose? Your purpose is not to make money. Your purpose is not to raise your family. That is part of the process in your purpose. Your purpose is to be bigger than that. But we don't sit down long enough to find out what that is. because we're doing what Valen was saying earlier. We compare ourselves to other people, and so we can't. I want to be like this. When in my early days, I had a mentor, and when I was in graduate school, and this guy was so great. This is what I used to say: I want to be everything that God wants me to be, and as much as Dr. Cecil Paul as I can become. Okay, he was such a powerful influence on me. But then I have to recognize I have to admire him for his greatness and what he is, and the man that he was. But I don't want to be as much as him as I want. I want to be everything that God wants me to be. That's my purpose. Okay, and now how does that play out in life? What is the role he calls me to play? And it's beyond the working, it's beyond the job, it's beyond the income, it's beyond the things, because at the end of the day, all of these things wouldn't matter. Everything here is impermanent. Everything, just think about everything, your age, your car, your house, your land you live on, everything changes. Nothing is permanent. Nothing. Okay, even the ocean, it changes, it goes, the skies, nothing is permanent. It's going to be all changed. The only permanence we know is God, who is unchanging. So if you realize that everything is impermanent, even when you're in a situation, you have to recognize this is going to change. As Minister Marlon reminds us so often, this is going to change. It's not going to stay this way. It's going to change. So if I define my life by this as it is now and say, oh, this is my life, you're wrong, because it's all going to change. But when you have a purpose, you can go through these valleys and you go up these mountains and you don't lose your way, because you know this is my purpose. And your purpose gets you out of bed in the morning. Your purpose will get you out of bed. You'll have 2 hours sleep and you'll wake up feeling, the times when I have to come on this platform 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up feeling as fresh as I'm waking up my regular time. If I have to wake up 2:30, 2 o'clock to get on this, because it's my purpose. I want to get out of bed to fulfill my purpose. And so if what you're doing is a constant drag and it's a constant tiredness and it's absorbing your energy and you can't find you need to stay and say, what is my purpose? And let people help you do that together. Don't just sit there and just conclude that this is my life. Okay. Your purpose then says this, and even as high in purpose, it says sees their life as having meaning. They work to make a difference in the world and often feel connected to ideas or social movements larger than themselves. Okay? Larger than themselves. Like I said, it must be bigger than you and it must outlast you. And I tell you to take that too. If you want an assignment for you to do out of this presentation, take those 2 things. My purpose must be bigger than me and it must outlive me. And start wrestling with that. Start wrestling. What could that be for me? What is God calling me to? How is God calling me to be this? And speak to people that you know that has great respect for you and admires you. And I always say, if you want honesty, speak to people who expects nothing from you. They're not, they're not invested in you. That if they tell you the truth, this might happen and it might have that effect. People who can just tell you the truth without fear of how that truth will have a repercussion on them. But what's your purpose? Bigger than you, and it must outlive you. So such an individual have a sense that they know what their life is all about. And so if I were to ask you, do you know what your life is all about? Do you know what your life is all about? I could tell you, my life is all about investing in helping people to change their lives, especially people who have experienced brokenness, trauma, difficulty in life. I love coming alongside those people. I love see their faces change and the light comes on and something just makes sense. I love watching them rising from the ashes of sexual abuse as a child and watching them now as an adult and putting that in perspective and finding their life and finding their meaning and being able to smile again. And you can write a check for that for me. But when I do that, I know I am fulfilling my purpose. So what is do you know what is your purpose? It must be bigger than you it must outlive you. You know what your life is about. Do you know what your life is about? Lying to yourself, you can't discover your purpose. So you have to, yeah, back to the very first where we started, right? Self-acceptance. You have to come clean. You have to come honest. This is who I am. This is it. You know, and where do I go from here? And what's my life purpose? But if you're lying to yourself, if you're telling yourself, oh, you know, this is, you know, that didn't happen, or it didn't happen this way, or I was a victim, or and not owning that space and showing up honestly, you're going to struggle to find your purpose, because you know what, you'll be lying to yourself about your purpose as well. You'll be making it up as you go. So that honesty is vital.
I have before I something that keeps kind of sticking while people talking is that there are two words. There's love and there's the law, right? You see, one of the things that we have not come to terms with, especially in the church, we have not understood the term as, if you look at Jesus' life, he dealt with people based on pure love. It was not based on the law. And what we do here, especially, we slap people on their heads based on the law of things. He met the woman with the issue of blood. He should not have touched her because of where she was from, and because she was unclean. He should not have touched her. He should have done anything to her because of the uncleanness of her. He shouldn't have. The woman, even by the well, who had 5 husbands and all the different things that she became the first evangelist, all because he actually spoke to her. You see, we tend to put the law of things ahead of the hurt of the people. And for us now, we have to look beyond that and love the people for who they really are. And if we could do that, I don't, whoever the persons are, we have lesbians, we have homosexuals, all different kinds of categories who will come into our churches who are hurt. Mm-hmm. And we could look to a place where we could see the individual, the way Jesus looks at them, and the person, not the activity. Then when we administer love there, we will see a great set of miracles and changes taking place among us. And the love of God will start to manifest itself. And that's all I'm going to say, because for us, especially as ministers, and then especially under this banner of Christianity, we have to get it right. We are turning people off because we prefer to use the law, but when Jesus dealt with pure love for people. With that being said, I mean, next week we're going to be dealing. I've already started getting some questions. Obviously, we're going to do the physical aspect of relationship with the men, from masturbation to all the different things that you tend to go through, right or wrong. We're going to go through the process of it and strengthen the man as an individual first, because you cannot become a good husband, a good father, none of those categories, unless you become a good individual. And so we want to make sure that you are confident as who you are, in where you're going, what you've been born to do. So next week, if you can, and all of you receive emails from God's Anatomy, send your questions in so we can all answer. Because I think next week is going to be a very interactive session. As much as we're going to be teaching, but I feel we're going to deal with erectile dysfunction and all the different things that we're going to be talking about. Men with all 35 and they're still at 6:30 and they can't get this stuff at 12 o'clock. You know, all these different things we want to deal with as we go along. But we want to be real as we go on for next week. So invite a friend, send emails in, send your questions in, so we can have a good, mature conversation and get some deliverance in the process. All right.
Thank you, Minister Marlon. Reverend Lawrence, anything from you?
No, just to say how, I mean, this has gone even beyond my expectation today. I've learned so much. I've been writing and just some gems, not just from you, Errol, but from others who have been talking.
Yes.
And I'm sure they when we get the recording of this, we can go over it and we can just feel strengthened and empowered and realize, I like when about being the lion, about being the lion. I mean, that is something that all of us can feel. We can still become the lion, at this point in our lives, in this, no matter what age we are. And we can be, as you have been putting, the better self, get into our better self. I really, really enjoy just listening and processing. And of course, we'll continue to process and, these are things when I learn these things and try to implement, if not in my life, implement. I try to share it with the classes that I do. Sometimes, if it affords anything, that I can. But unfortunately, class I'm teaching right now is all females, so I'm sure I'm going to bring that if people see. Oh, but thank you so much for everybody for the kind of input and what was said and things learned today.
Yes. Good. Good. Thank you, Rev. So this is what I usually say, and I've mentioned this when Reverend Ruth and I started on this platform. I said, when I come on this platform to deliver, the information I deliver is not as important to me as the questions that are raised and the comments that are made by the people listening. Okay, that's what's effective. I could tell you a whole bunch of stuff, but when you start talking about what you're experiencing and what you're learning, that's for me is the power in the presentation, not what I'm putting up there. So I appreciate all of you for your comments and the things that you've shared. And like Reverend Lawrence said, I have learned from listening to you as well, sharing tonight. Tonight for me, because I can just see it's dark outside for me right now, but it has just been rich. And something Reverend Lawrence just said, I want to reemphasize and ask you to enforce the best and most effective way I know of letting something that you learn to stick is to pass it on to someone else. Because as you pass that on to someone else, it reinforces in your mind the very thing that you are wanting to learn. So share it with someone, invite someone to come. Okay. So I want to pray for us as we close, and so thankful, men, for showing up and being a part of this. Last week presentation is already on the YouTube channel for God's Anatomy, and this one will be edited and put up there during the week, and so it's there for you to go back and look at it again, or invite someone. You could show it in your youth group, and have conversation in your men's group, whatever. But just let God be glorified through this. So let me pray for you as we close. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this time today and for just showing up in the way you did to guide this conversation, the team upon which this platform is built, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I thank you for the men that are on here today, Lord, and the way in which they've opened up and they have shared, and those who even haven't shared, but they are challenged and they're encouraged. Lord, I pray we will go away from this platform committed to being better men, not for the world, not for people to impress people, but being better men for your kingdom's sake. Being better men, Lord, so that what we do on earth will be treasures stored up in heaven. Better husbands, better fathers, better co-workers, better managers, better employers, better family members to our extended family, Lord. Father, do a work in us today. May we take the time to pay attention to our psychological well-being, and recognizing that as we deal with those issues in our lives, we become better men, so we can be better spiritually for you, Lord. So guide us today, we pray. Thank you again for these men. Bless them today, Lord. And may they leave this platform not just being stirred by the information, but being changed because they've allowed it to transform their lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.